Hey there, race fans. Another edition, in fact, edition number 2 of This Week in Karting here on the EKN Radio Network. I'm Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. Thursday, November 8th, we are less than a week away from the SuperKarts USA SuperNationals in Las Vegas. Easily our most busy couple of weeks of the year, not just when we're trackside, there from 8 to 8 every day. But the lead-in to this event is one that keeps us unbelievably busy. Big thank you to the broadcast partners who will be part of the EKN Alive program throughout the week in Las Vegas. Of course, a lot of prep for them, getting their commercials ready to go as we are ready to kind of roll out 4.5 days of serious coverage on the EKN Radio Network. Of course, EKN Live. All the way through to Super Sunday when the Facebook page for SuperKarts USA takes over our live stream, but live images. David Cole, again, thank you so much for carving out what will be about an hour here for us to chat about what's happened over the last 10 days in American karting, North American karting. But man, it's pretty busy right now, isn't it?
You're lucky I was able to fit this in between showering and lunch.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's and you're of course a family man. You got the kids too. It was your son's birthday this past week, so you got to take some time there. And this is just one of these, David, this like probably 3-week stretch, maybe almost a full month, because we spend a couple of hardcore days after the Supernats as well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, getting things done with the debrief, race reports, kind of wrapping things up. Probably 3 weeks to almost a full month where we're at least 12-hour days and hammer down.
It is, and it's not quite what SuperKarts USA does, where they spend a full 12 months preparing for this event, which is the granddaddy of them all for karting, really.
The funny thing is, you and I, before we jump into this week in karting and the stuff that's been happening, it's been kind of cool. You and I have been going back on Skype. Obviously, we're in different offices, and we're looking at entry thing. Talk about the entries. You and I are doing our predictions for the different categories. You've produced, of course, all the previews, and we're always going back and forth with a new driver that has entered. You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, this is so awesome! It's the category stacking up for this year's race. It's going to be very tight.
Well, there's a lot of names that are just catching your eye as you go through it, as we prepare to, as I prepare to write it, and I'm sure as you prepare to make your terrible predictions that will not come true.
Wow. All right.
So it's just whether it's just new names that are coming to the event or names that have been at the event and just haven't been there in a while, or just random names that were like, wow, this, especially like, the K100, that we're going to publish on Friday. It's amazing.
Well, the thing that's cool, David, you talk, and we'll just jump real quickly. We need to do our own show when it comes to the preview for the Supernats, but the K100 category, not kind of like what you see in X30 Senior, where there's a lot of kids that are younger, right? 15 years old to say 18. I haven't had a chance to see the full grid yet. Obviously, I think you just sent it over to me, the preview to look at, so I'll jump on that today. But you were saying to me on Skype that like half the field can probably buy its own beer at the bar. This is an older field, a more experienced field in KA100, and I think that's part of the cool factor of the weekend.
That's the panache of that category, where it's not going to beat you up, and you don't have some 14-year-old punk. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a few, but guys that are trying to be F1 drivers within 2 years in KA100. So that's a great opportunity for that category, because it's, again, bringing names that haven't been at the SuperNationals in a few years, if not a full decade, like a couple of them.
Yeah, you're right. The KA100 program, that the new Miami package, the air-cooled 100cc engine, really has excited a lot of people. And we're going to talk a lot about that, of course, when we get to Las Vegas, but after that as well. So let's jump into episode number 2 of This Week in Karting. I will try to calm myself down. 2 cups of coffee in. I went heavy on the coffee when I was making it up, so I'm pretty jacked up right now, which is good. This new podcast that we debuted a couple of weeks ago, designed essentially as a wrap-up of all the news that's happening in North American karting. It's the stuff that you see on the homepage of ekartingnews.com. It's the news that came across our desks that David, were able to get up on the website. Just going to bring people up to speed on what's going on. Perfect for the morning commute or heading home from work. I did it yesterday with my podcast with Matt Jaskell, the debut of my Book It podcast. just plugged in my phone, put it on EKN radio, and I drove to an afternoon meeting and listened in the car. Just an awesome way to be able to grab karting content and get yourself up to speed. So, David, a lot going on here. I got 4 pages of notes for us to go through here. First and foremost, now this wasn't recent. This was actually just a little while ago. But SuperKarts USA releasing their 2019 Pro Tour schedule, and not just the dates, but also the locations as well. SKUSA's Tom Kutcher pulling off the cover for the 2019 Pro Tour at their California Pro Kart Challenge banquet. Tom oftentimes likes to throw stuff up on the screen during the banquet and kind of surprise everybody with what's happening. But he unveiled 3 stops and a couple of different venues, really a little bit of a different approach as we're into what? I guess it's the 9th year of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour.
It is. It's going back to one and bringing in a new facility that's not new to the sport, and especially for California. But kind of as you pointed out, with the Winter Nationals starting at Cal Speed Karting Center, which is bringing everybody to the West Coast for the first event of the season. So that's something that began with this original Spring Nationals when it started in California at Sonoma.
Yeah, when you and I were discussing it, you brought up some interesting facts. It's the first time in the history of the SKUSA Pro Tour that a race has actually been held on a permanent karting circuit in Southern California. Considering the fact that SKUSA, based in Temecula, is a Southern California operation, their Pro Kart Challenge pretty much Southern California, it's really the first time that a Pro Tour race has been held at a permanent karting circuit. Now think about that, folks, in Southern California. Yeah, they've ran at Sonoma, of course, launched the series there in 2010 with the Spring Nationals. They had the event as well in 2017. Yeah, they ran the street course at Modesto in 2014. That was the Summer Nationals, I believe. Was that Summer Nationals? I think that was Summer Nationals. But yeah, isn't it? It's kind of odd, David, right, that we haven't been there at a Pro Tour race in Southern California, essentially the heart and soul of the SuperKarts USA program.
It is, but it's not. When you look at the Pro Tour schedule and the numbers that you get, it's all about paddock space, and that has a lot to do with the facilities that they select for the Pro Tour. Cal Speed obviously isn't really a destination, although it is an LA area, easy to get to. But it's not a destination facility. And it also has some limitations on what you can do, knowing as we've been there with a few programs before in the past, including Challenging Americas, CKI back in the day. There it has some hurdles, but obviously, Tom's decided to put up with these hurdles and bring everybody into SoCal.
Well, it's I think paying back some of the core teams that travel over the last number of years. It's really the first time since 2016 when 2 of the Pro Tour races were actually held west of the Mississippi. Last year, of course, NOLA, Phoenix, and Newcastle. Newcastle and Phoenix on the East Coast. 2017, same, NOLA and Newcastle. It was Sonoma that had that the West Coast program, and of course, in 15 was when Las Vegas, 16 rather, was when Las Vegas was still part of it. The SuperNats were still part of the Pro Tour. They, of course, moved to a separate 3-race program in 2017. Now, let's give you the lineup because we didn't really do that off the top. Winter Nationals, March 1st, 2nd, 3rd at Cal Speed Karting Center in Fontana, as David had mentioned. Spring Nationals moving to Utah Motorsports Campus in Tooele, Utah, the former Miller Motorsports Park, May 3rd, 4th, 5th. News coming out as well that track has actually just been finalized. So looking forward to getting back up to Miller. David, we've been there for a bunch of really good races as well, that track race as well. Summer Nationals back again to Newcastle Motorsports Park. It's almost kind of hard to believe that finale, David, the Summer Nationals, would ever leave Newcastle because, man, it's unless SKUSA moves and adds the 4th race that could happen down the line in the Pro Tour and potentially grabs the Fall Nationals to cap things off, Newcastle really has just become part of the program with SuperKarts USA.
Rob, please don't add another race. Please don't add another race. I think we're good with 3. And as you said, this will be the 5th year Newcastle is hosting a Pro Tour race. in the upcoming 10th year of the Pro Tour. So we'll be now going to Newcastle half the years that the Pro Tour is in existence. And it's just been, again, it's a good home for not only the East Coast and Midwest, but SKUSA in general. They really appreciate what the Dismores and Mike Adams are able to do with the Pro Tour every time it comes there for the Summer Nationals.
Yeah, agreed. So again, we're working our way through this week in karting. Great to have people joining us here on the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. David, let's move into some of the new news that dropped. And this was a really cool one, and I think that a lot of people are already seeing some online discussion about it. But Margay and the Circuit of the Americas in Austin joining forces to launch a new Margay Ignite program in Austin. Of course, COTA building a brand new karting facility essentially adjacent to the front straightaway of the Formula One track, which will, of course, host the IndyCar series next year as well. Interesting, David, first and foremost, the track really not designed to play well with, let's say, top-level shifter karts or even, X30 Senior or something like that. It's a bit tighter in nature. The track designed primarily for the rental kart program to bring people out there. But I think it plays really well. Margay, of course, has proven the program and the concept of being able to bring karters from the rental programs into competition karting through their Ignite program with that level spec playing field. I think this will be real. I personally think this will be really big for karting in Texas.
I think you kind of hit it when you talked about the racetrack. It's very similar to what Margay is working with at the Gateway Karting Complex right there in St. Louis. It's the track they have there. It's not for the high speed machines that we have at the national level. It's built for grassroots racing. It's a rental kart track. It's really what these two facilities are. And I think it's a great blend to bring Margay down into Texas, get that kind of grassroots feel. Like you said, get guys out of the rental karts into competition karts. And again, one of their biggest draws that Margay has been pushing with the Ignite program is simplicity. You have one kart, one engine for every age level. And now they add in the IMEK 100 for those who want to go a little bit quicker than what the Briggs 206 has to offer. But still, it's the same kart, same engine for everybody in each of the categories. So that's kind of the draw. It's simplicity, and Margay's really attached themselves to that, and they're bringing people into the sport. It's what we need.
Yeah, it's exactly what we need. And it's about getting these people that have fallen in love with rental karting. They like the sport. They like the concept. They like the speed. They enjoy the venue. But to be able to draw them actually out into karting and put them in a competition kart, that opens the door for them to go elsewhere. And that's the kind of the comment that I made on a couple of the Facebook threads that were rolling, was people were saying, hey, we've got club karting already down here in Texas. Why wouldn't they start a club and open it up to all of us with different karts to come out and play? Well, my concept was here, that's going to be unbelievably difficult to get people to come out of the rental karts into that kind of a club atmosphere, because then you're dealing with you're either buying used equipment or you're dealing with different shops. And there's not a lot, I don't think there's any shops actually in Austin, which makes it difficult. Number two, David, you mentioned simplicity, which I think is perfect, because one of the key things is, and I think we've either gone through it or we've heard from other people that have lamented the fact that once you get into the sport as a rookie, you're trying to learn, you're getting yourself faster. Well, immediately you start thinking, well, maybe I've got the wrong axle, or maybe I need to get my engine prepped. I've got to stop. I pulled my 206 out of the box, which you can do and be competitive. But then you start thinking, I've got to send it to a builder, or, the clutch I have is the wrong clutch. I need to have a more expensive clutch. You start worrying about other things that you completely lose when you go to a spec program. I know a lot of people lament spec. They want to have that ability to have innovation or whatever it may be. But David, this spec program allows someone to come in and say, you know what? I'm going racing. I've got the same equipment as everybody else. The Margay Ignite program, bottom line, has removed the barrier of entry. And one of those is cost, right? Right around $4,000, brand new go-kart. And then everybody's on the same equipment, David. That's just, you've raced it yourself at Rock Island many times. It's such a tremendous program.
Well, NASCAR spec, essentially, IndyCar spec, essentially. You can make adjustments to these Margay karts to be different than what, somebody else might be doing. That's the great thing about it. There's still ways to find a quicker way around the racetrack than just having to go out and buy the greatest, latest, newest, brand new thing.
Yeah, as Alan Rudolph and I talked about in our podcast, the next thing that's worth 0.2, right?
Yeah.
Everything you bolt on is always, this axle's worth 0.2 of a second. And it's, okay, so 10 race series planned at COTA with the Margay Ignite program for 2019. As you had mentioned, David, classes around the Briggs 206 and IAME KA 100 power plants. They'll run Kid Kart, Cadet, Junior, Senior, and Masters. I think, and the other key thing I posted when somebody said, hey, this isn't supporting the clubs. Why can't we come and run COTA? Hey, you never know. COTA may say, hey, listen, we're going to have an open event. We're going to run our Margay Ignite classes, but we're also going to run a 206 Senior. Bring out whatever you got. Bring your CRG, your Tony Kart, your Burrell, whatever you got. Let's go racing.
Well,
hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, what this really does, David, does it not, knowing what Margay's done at Gateway, at Audubon, wherever else they're putting programs together, what this could do, honestly, is provide so many more racers from the rental car program that will then go to those clubs and other series. This is going to feed more people into the sport as opposed to just providing a venue for existing karters to drive.
Well, not everybody that goes to Austin lives in Austin. That goes to the Challenge Circuit of the Americas facility. They're not always from Austin, so they could be from San Antonio. They could be from Houston. They could be from Amarillo. Lots of different places that already have tracks and clubs established that could not know about it in their own hometown, but find it at Circuit of the Americas and then go to their back home and find a track to race at. It doesn't necessarily mean, everybody that takes part in karting at Austin is from Austin. I mean, they could be from Colorado. I mean, you look at all the people that go to the Formula One races or coming up in 2019, the IndyCar race that'll be there next year. So just having, karting in the eye of people who attend these major motorsports events, especially Formula One, it's good for the sport. And again, as you said, it's easier with the whole Margay system that they have in place to bring in new people because of the simplicity. And it's just, I don't know. It just seems like a win-win, and we really should see it more at more facilities like this.
Well, obviously, this is another one that Margay's put together. I would have no surprise to hear that there's other tracks that they're trying to do this with, because this is a great program. It's obviously working, and hey, you know what? Like you said, there's going to be a lot of fans down at COTA for the IndyCar race next year. Maybe we should see if they'll put on one of their Ignite Series races on that weekend. That'd be pretty cool, because I know that a lot of guys there are going to want to go run the rental karts while they're there, be part of the experience of being at COTA, being at the IndyCar race, or being at the MotoGP race that's there next year as well. But man, it'd be cool to have the Ignite Series running one of the days so people could see it. I think that'd be pretty cool. All right, David, let's move into a next piece of information here on This Week in Karting, one of our new podcasts here on the EKN Radio Network. WKA announcing that Daytona Kart Week entry now open. Of course, for those of you unfamiliar with Daytona Kart Week, long time crown jewel of the WKA program, running at the Daytona International Speedway. The road racing drivers on the big track. WK Manufacturers Cup kicking off their season on the essentially what is a temporary track on the inside of NASCAR turns 3 and 4. Then they've got, of course, the Maxxis Tires Dirt Championship as well. Used to be run at Municipal Stadium. I had a chance to race there. Now run on the dirt track just outside of, I think, turn number 1. David, give us the update. Lots going on with WKA. And again, they just capped off their season. You were there at GoPro. What? 2 months away, less than 2 months, I guess 2 months away from that race. Boom, back into it at Daytona.
Yeah, I think I saw it was 50 days until moving day for Daytona, so it's not a lot of turnaround,
right?
But there is a little bit of turnaround in the class structure for the Manufacturers Cup Series for 2019. They're going to welcome the KA 100 Junior category, which we've been talking about a lot, and also Briggs 206 Cadets. So there you see, I mean, that's kind of the, where grassroots racing is going, is Briggs in the K100 category. So out goes the Yamaha and in goes those two categories. With the last 2 years, I want to say, the Margay Ignite program has been part of the Daytona Kart Week, which is back again. Their Dash at Daytona event that they do. Margay is obviously the title sponsor for the Manufacturers Cup Series event there. And they're always a great presence to have because they're not only at the sprint side, but they're on the road race side as well too. So sure. It's a big event for the Manufacturers Cup Series being at Daytona.
I was actually texting back and forth with Margay boss Keith Freber. I'm actually setting up a podcast that we're going to be doing tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow evening, Friday evening, that we'll have next week during SuperNats Week. It'll be SuperNats Week on the EKN Live program. It'll be Operation Grassroots Week on EKN Radio throughout the next week. But Keith told me that they're already over last year's entry of 32 drivers, and we're still 7 weeks out, David. So you could see 40 to 45 to 50 drivers in the Margay Ignite class at Daytona Kart Week. So that's always a great addition to that program. Now, David, you're also very well versed, a longtime competitor yourself in the road race program. Vega Tires Road Race Series securing their dates, WK letting that out as well.
Yeah, not all their dates. Okay. Not all their dates are secure. Just a few. Roebling, Topeka. I don't think Topeka was part of it. Actually, you know what? I don't even know the information yet. I'm the WK trustee. I should look at this up. But one of the biggest news that they kind of let out of the bag and haven't, because they haven't really released a full calendar yet because they're still working on contracts and finalizing that, was the return to Gateway Motorsports Park, which we just talked about with the Gateway Kartplex. But this one is in conjunction with Championship Enduro Series, the kart program that's based out of the Kansas and Nebraska and the flyover states, those guys. So it's kind of a trifecta of road racing at Gateway, which used to host a WK National a long time ago, back in the I want to say late 90s, early 2000s.
Have you ever driven there yourself, Dave? Did you ever get a chance to drive it?
I've driven it. It's a Roval, obviously. Yep. They use a lot of the oval from the front straightaway, and then you dive into the road course part, which really isn't too technical, but it's very fast. And then you jump back out onto the back stretch and make your way around turns 3 and 4 down the front stretch.
That's cool. That's awesome.
If you like to go fast and you like walls around you, it's a great place to go.
Let's move into the Maxxis Tires Dirt Championship, David. One of the cool things, it's just been a big event. Now, it was massive in the day. 2,000 entries at one point, right? And of course, as most people know that have been around there a long time, things kind of tumbled out of control. Tire prep was a big issue for a number of years. The WK has been digging hard to get things rolling again. They've been doing a good job offering some money. They've had some live coverage of the Maxxis Tires Dirt Championship again, using that track that was built initially for, I believe, the AMA flat track outside of turn number 1. It's perfect for the dirt guys. Being told, which I think is very cool, the Unlimited All-Stars coming back for 2018. It's kind of like, if you think supercarts of road racing, this is supercarts of dirt. These guys, tons of horsepower, trying to get it down onto the dirt. It's wedge bodies. I'm a big fan of the Unlimited All-Stars. I think they're just badass machines.
They are. They go fast. Lots of interesting combinations of aerodynamics, engines, driveline assembly. Lots of different innovation. When you look at the Unlimited All-Stars, which is the complete opposite of what we see at the sprint karting now today. But it's definitely, I think WK has found a home with Maxxis. Maxxis and WK seem to be working really well together. Maxxis obviously has a good stranglehold of the dirt world throughout the eastern part of the United States, so it'll be good. Should be a good event. They've been working together a lot over the past few months of working on a program for the future. So I think not only will this event be good, but the future seems bright for WK and dirt racing.
That's awesome. We'll, of course, have more on the homepage of ekartingnews.com. Those who follow us on all our social media channels, great opportunity to get the news as it comes out. But if this is what you like, This Week in Karting, the podcast, you just knock it on your EKN Radio Network app. You're going to get all the information. So in a future episode of This Week in Karting, we'll give you more updates on the Maxxis Tires Dirt Championship. Not really our primary focus here at eKarting News, more sprint and road race, but of course we want to keep people up to date on everything that's going on with the World Karting Association. Just getting rolling here, folks, with this edition of This Week in Karting. Lot to talk about as it's been 2 weeks since we had our initial episode, our inaugural run here on This Week in Karting. But David Cole and I will be back. Lots more to come here on the EKN Radio Network.
For over a century, Briggs & Stratton has had a commitment and passion for racing. It's a DNA found in every engine we build today. So whether you kart race, Baja, race quarter midgets, or believe that dirt and snow are just God's way of adding to the challenge, the dedicated spirit of every Briggs & Stratton employee stands at the fence waiting for the green flag to drop. Briggs & Stratton Racing. What powers you?
SKUSA's national #1 plate, one of the most sought-after trophies in the sport. 3G Kart Racing is the proud owner of a #1 plate for 2018, thanks to the performance of our championship-winning driver, Jordan Musser. In 2017, Jordan topped the S4 field to win the title aboard his 3G Kart Racing Fisher-powered Barellar. Like Jordan, we're dedicated to winning, and we can help you succeed as well. We're located in Katy, Texas, and we proudly support our local club, the Gulf Coast Karters. We also hit the road to compete regionally in the Texas Pro Kart Challenge and nationally on the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. We support top-quality race-winning material, Barellart, Intrepid, Miami, Fisher, and TrueTech racing engines. From new kart purchase and professional assembly to a full trackside support program, 3G's customer service is second to none. Our extensive inventory, backed by knowledgeable people, will keep you up front on the track.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network and episode number 2 of This Week in Karting. Rob Howden here alongside David Cole. We are buried in SuperNationals preparations right now, but David and I carving out about an hour and a bit to make sure that we get another This Week in Karting out, bring everybody up to speed on what's been happening over the last 7 to 10 days. David, we had planned 60 minutes for this. It may be a little, it may be a little longer. There's lots to get through here. Moving into SuperKarts USA again. Of course, we're right here for the event next week. But last week, I guess it was on Halloween, right? They unveiled the track layout for the 22nd running of the SuperNationals.
Yeah, 12 turns, just over about 0.7 of a mile, maybe less than 0.8 of a mile. Again, designed by Howie Idelson, Bonner Moulton, Wesley Boswell, obviously 3 prominent figures in the sport of karting. Bonner set to make his 22nd start at the SuperNationals, the only driver to do so. Going back to the Rio for the 3rd time. So it was kind of a combination of, track layouts they used the last 3 years at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and then plus the old tracks of the Rio. And then, kind of mixing it up to bring in something new as we go back to, the Rio.
Can you imagine the deep breath they must have had to take? Because, of course, those 3 guys came out and were, Tom Kutcher said, I'm going to get these guys to come and design a track for me. I'm not going to take all the flack on track design. I got these guys here. If it's good, thank them. If it's bad, blame them. They go from David, that massive footprint last year at the Las Vegas Convention Center, brand new racetrack, brand new pavement, back to the Rio. I can just imagine the mindset of, hey, how are we going to do this? Because it's such a smaller footprint. Although we've had so many great races there, they know what to do. But man, definitely a challenge for all 3 of those guys with such a different footprint in terms of being able to lay a track out.
Yeah, footprint was obviously the biggest hurdle that they had to overcome. But I think, looking at the layout, they'd done a fine job because, they were able to learn what they could do with almost unlimited amount of space that we had last year. they learned from the mistakes the first year that they did it in 2015 when we went there with the smaller size and some of the, bonehead layouts that they had where with a 180 in turn one, which was completely stupid, but they admit it.
Yeah.
It made for not only chaotic racing, but for chaotic starts that,
the 180 at the start has been something that SKUSA's had for a long time. The last time we were at the Rio, but you're right. It was guys, Bonner, they said, hey, we're not doing this again. We're going to try something different.
Yeah, but the 180 at the Rio from 2008 to 14 was completely different from the 180 they had at the convention center.
Yes.
I mean, it was a fast, gradual 180 because it wasn't a hard 180 like they did there in 2015.
Wide open. It was wide open too.
Yeah.
Right?
And so you could hug the cushion.
Yep.
You could hug the cushion to avoid the idiots and be able to get away.
Agreed.
Where you couldn't do that in 2015. So they learned from that. The last 2 years, they've had that big sweeping corner coming to the start finish line. That is essentially the first turn for all the starts. So that's a plus, and that's the big major thing they carried over into this layout. So.
Well, remember the key last year too was when they eventually moved the barriers back on the exit of turn number one. They're heading into the left-hand hairpin. They essentially let the race line dictate where drivers were going. Nobody was in the barriers after that, right? Because you didn't want to go that far out because you're going to set yourself up for getting past to the hairpin.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes because we don't exactly have the same amount of space.
That's true. You're right.
So I'm going to guess it's going to be really tight this year in that section. But again, guys are going to have to understand the limits.
True enough. We had mentioned Maxxis when we were talking about the Dirt World Championships with the WKA. Well, Maxxis also getting in even more aggressively into the four-cycle program in the Sprint Series. David, we got some news here at EKN that the Maxxis four-cycle Sprint Series Grand Nationals entry is rolling in. The event the same weekend as the SuperNats, November 16th and 17th. They're running at the historic 103rd Street Sports Complex in Jacksonville, Florida. A full slate of Briggs and Stratton 206 and Pro Gas categories set to go. Another good sprint program. Of course, Max is supporting this one. Buddy Long, kind of the quarterback of that program. He's been around a long time. He knows this sport very well. They're doing a great job putting another strong program together for 206.
They are. They're doing a great job at it. It's grassroots racing at its best. They're actually providing some shootout money races as they typically did throughout the season on Friday for senior, masters, and cadet. And then the full day of racing is going to follow on Saturday. So, a lot of those people who are still in the northern states that may have put away their cart, hey, you got time to go down to Florida and race. So they have, I think, entries from over 10 states that I can think of. So a lot of people from the eastern half of the United States going to go and take part of it. I do have a question for you. See if your mind is working this morning.
Holy mackerel, David!
What
come on.
Year?
All right. I'm ready.
What year was the World Karting Championships held at the 103rd Street Sports Complex?
Oh man. Okay. I know a lot of guys boycotted it, right?
Correct.
I'm going to say, I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to say 1987.
Close. 86.
Oh.
86.
Oh, I was close. Yeah. All right. That's not too bad. Yeah. That's a story for a Book It podcast. We need to find somebody who's part of that action and talk about that.
Haddock's been to all of them, so he was going to
say, I'm going to get Haddock on one of my books.
And a good one to talk to would be Randy Kugler, because with WKA being the with part of ACUS and the ASN for karting, they hosted the event. So he was back, in the 80s, he was a guy. He was a major part of that event. I'm sure he had a few late nights there.
Scratch the notes down on that one. We'll definitely talk about that event at Jacksonville. But again, Maxxis four-cycle sprint series having their Grand Nationals the same weekend as the SuperNats. What we'll do, and make sure you look at eKarting News the weeks to follow. We'll get a race report in from Buddy so that we can bring everybody up to speed. David, one of the things about this sport that's we're getting there, right? So we're past 50 years. I think we're even past 60 years now for karting, and we've got a lot of people that have been part of this sport, its history, just some great names, and we're going to start seeing this more and more. And that's losing some of the legends of our sport. They're going to start working their way up in age, getting into the 70s, 80s, 90s. Most recently, hearing about the passing of legend Gary Hartman. He would have been a guy to get on a podcast for sure. Gary's just so many stories surrounding Gary. I know, obviously, a fantastic driver, but ended up being a pretty legendary engine builder as well. Exhaust technology, but just one of those guys that kind of his character is what built the fabric of our sport.
Yeah, I think you said it right. He was a character. We don't get a lot of that today in racing, especially in the pro level. I think Kimi is probably the most charismatic racer that we have, even though he's very
or lack thereof.
But that's what makes him kind of a character is the way he is. Where I think Gary was kind of just the guy that was. I don't know if he was overboard, but just there to enthusiastic. He was very enthusiastic, but as you said, very knowledgeable about what was going on. And, obviously raced Haddock and all the legends like Scott Pruitt and all those guys, and not only sprint racing, but road racing as well. So, a lot of people in the sport that were in the sport in the 60s, 70s, 80s, Gary Hartman was one of the guys, was one of the, the people you look up to and took notice.
Yeah, you know what? And talking to a lot of people, obviously Gary was living in Las Vegas, did a lot of work with guys like Matt Jaskell and Pat Long, and just built a ton of racing engines and really touched a lot of people's lives. And he was just a tremendous racer. And of course, everyone here at EKN sends their condolences to Gary's family, and we remember him today. When it comes to karting in NorCal, Cambrian Go-Karts is the go-to location for karts, engines, parts, accessories, and incredible service. We're located in Campbell, California, and we're dedicated to supporting NorCal karting. We're trackside for all the KPX Karting Championship and SuperKarts USA California Pro Kart Challenge events, and we stock everything you need for your Miami and Briggs engines, including X30, KA100, Swift, and the awesome 206. We're also an authorized Avinco tire dealer. Burrell Art and Ricardo Chassis are winning races from coast to coast. Cambrian Go-Karts is your Northern California source for these quality Italian-made karts, having been a proud dealer of the Burrell product line since we opened our doors in 2004. We're also a dealer for Sodi Kart, the brand that has become the leader in gearbox racing in the U.S. If you're in NorCal, the shop to visit if you're seeking incredible service and a dedication to supporting newcomers and experienced racers alike is Cambrian Go-Karts. Check us out online at CambrianGokarts.com. Cometic Gasket is a leading worldwide supplier of gaskets and engine sealing solutions for karting, automotive performance, power sports, original equipment, and the remanufactured engine industries. Cometic karting gaskets are available as OE replacement top-end kits or as individual gaskets and seals. Just like competitive karters, Cometic can operate on the fly and has the unique capability to customize any gasket to meet specific engine requirements and clearances. All of Cometic's fiber materials are asbestos-free and do not require any additional sealants. Viton oil ring cylinder head seals are used in each 2-cycle kit, and Cometic's 4-cycle engine kits feature only the most advanced multi-layer steel head gaskets. Cometic can tailor to engine builder-specific needs through bulk ordering and packaging flexibility. Cometic gaskets are must-haves for championship-winning teams across multiple disciplines of both professional and amateur motorsports. Cometic Gasket, sealing championships since 1989. Welcome back, folks, to our second edition of This Week in Karting here on the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden and David Cole giving you the information that made its way to the homepage of ekartingnews.com over the last 10 days. This is a new podcast that we'll be doing from now on to give everyone the opportunity of kind of getting up to speed on all the happenings in the sport. Podcast you can listen to, of course, on the EKN Radio Network on the website, ekartingnews.com/radio, or through the downloadable app on iTunes and Google Play. Make sure you search EKN Radio Network. David, not surprising, more schedules coming out. Rock Cup USA wrapping up their Rock the Rio event in Las Vegas, but they've also announced the dates for their Florida Winter Tour. January 17th and 18th, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. They'll be back-to-back there at February 14th to 17th, and capping off with the final weekend at Ocala Grand Prix in late March 21 to 24. Let's, first and foremost, the one thing we'll talk about other than the dates being locked, man, this is pretty cool. They're going to head to Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, a temporary circuit, 2 different layouts over the first 2 weekends of the Florida Winter Tour.
Yeah, being a Chicago Bears fan, I'm not exactly thrilled about the Miami Dolphins, and my dad's a fan as well too. So, with that breaking up of our almost perfect season in 1985,
okay,
yeah,
wow, you're holding that kind of a grudge.
I always hold a grudge. Yeah,
on a stadium?
I think that's why I've never been to Miami, is because of my hatred for them.
That's awesome. Okay, good.
And it's funny because I probably have photos of me wearing Miami Dolphins gear when I was a kid because my dad made me. Kind of one of those things. It's sad.
Hold on. Note to self: contact Bob Cole. Obtain pictures. Use on EKN.
No, not EKN. No.
We're good.
Yeah, definitely. Being temporary circuits coming to the Florida Winter Tour, I asked Bill Wright, and he said he thinks the first year was the only year they actually used a temporary circuit, and I think it was at a college somewhere in like Palm Beach or in that general area. So
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Were you there?
Well, I was at the second ever Florida Winter Tour race. The first one was at I want to say Opelika. The second was at in Hialeah. At Miami Hialeah. It's an awesome race. I went down and covered that one for Shifter Card Illustrated. I drove 24 straight hours.
So that was a track?
That was it. It was a track that was built on a parking lot, but it was a permanent track on a parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somewhat of a temporary racer. We're
going to keep digging on that. We're going to find out about that for sure.
He told me I got to look it up, but yeah, just the fact that they're going outside the box a little bit and going temporary circuits, it's something interesting and unique, and we'll see how that relates to entry wise when it comes to January, because we know a lot of international drivers come and race the Florida Winter Tour, so we'll see how numbers, if it picks it up or if it negates it.
Well, the interesting thing first, looking at the dates, every date they've given is a 4-day run. Now, that's one of the things, of course, we've seen over the 20 years of the Winter Tour, and it's been tracks have essentially been open. David, people have been testing, for the entire week beforehand. This could potentially cut the budgets a bit by not allowing people to test. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out, right?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about the testing part of it because, again, I'm just so used to people living in Florida from January until the end of March. So
exactly, yeah.
You're right. I would assume that they're going to, as they've done in the past, they've done the one final per weekend type deal where I think Thursday will be full day of practice, Friday will be practice qualifying first heat, and then Saturday will be the rest of the heat races with your main events on Sunday. So I'm still assuming it's going to be 4 days of on track no matter what. But again, like you said, no prior testing before that. So that'll make things interesting.
And 2 different layouts on the different weekends. Champions, of course, will be crowned at the finale at Ocala Grand Prix. Invitations to join Team USA at the 2019 Rock Cup International Final at South Garda being awarded to Mini, Junior, Senior Masters, Senior Shifter, and Rock Shifter Masters, and an entry to the 2019 Rock the Rio for the Micro Champion. David, they also, I think, locked in the Rock the Rio date for 2019, October 29th to November 30th. So Rock Cup USA locking in some numbers When I did get a chance to talk to Garrett Potter, he did say that they're still looking at what they're going to do rock festival wise, what's going to happen potentially in the middle of the season, but otherwise, essentially season starter and season ender locked and loaded.
It is. I look at that Rock the Rio date. I would love to go, but it's on Halloween.
You're a dad.
I'm a dad. I just can't do it. I want to go. I want to experience what Rock the Rio is all about. Now I understand what people feel like when they don't go to Supernats. They sit at home and they cringe because they see all these people having a good time in Las Vegas, and you're just at home cringed.
Well, you're not going to have to do that for Supernats, Dave. You'll be fine. You won't be one of the ones that are missing out on the SuperNationals. So, all right, more news hitting EKN, and we're actually going to stay in Florida for this one, and kind of a cool deal. I like this. I wish we could go. You and I are both, I think, already at events, but a new race announced. The 24 Hours of Orlando, set to go March 29, 30, 31 at Orlando Karting Center in Florida. It's going to go under the USAC karting banner. Of course, USAC making the move with the Battle of the Brickyard. They've got the Elkhart Grand Prix. They're actually essentially going to, kind of run and have it under their banner, this 24-hour race. And essentially what this is, Andre Martins, who is the owner of the Orlando Karting Center in Florida, is a huge fan and has run in and loves the Granja Viana 500 down in Brazil. And I think in talking to TJ Halsma, this is all about, we need to have a cool 24-hour race up here. There's going to be two divisions, Pro and Masters, all Briggs & Stratton 206. Dude, this looks like a pretty cool program. Tony Kart rentals are going to be available. You're allowed to bring your own kart if you want. It has to have CIK-style bodywork. But essentially the entry, teams made up between 2 and 5 drivers, but the entry includes fuel, tires, and a brand new Briggs & Stratton 206 that the team gets to keep. So it's going to be pull the engine out of the box and go. I was talking to TJ. They'll run the motors in, they'll break them in the week before, but essentially you're going to P-pick for motors. It's a 24-hour race in Florida in March, essentially trying to recreate the Granja 500 here in the U.S.
You hit the nail on the head on two things. One, Martine's love for the Granja. I know him and USAC Karting's Mike Burrell were trying to do something very similar to this years ago when the Orlando Kart Center opened up before. And they actually wanted to do the same bodywork, that wild, crazy, humongous, almost dirt style bodywork on karts at somewhere in the U.S. and at Andre's track. But, the bodywork thing never caught on and people weren't really interested. But I think adding in the Briggs & Stratton is a huge step, because people know over the almost decade now that the Briggs & Stratton 206 has been around, that it's a great engine package and it'll go nonstop past the 24 hours, even maybe 48 hours if you wanted it to.
It's tremendous. Now, I will say this regarding the Granja 500 bodies. I asked TJ about it. TJ Halsma from MyLaps.com, obviously one of the guys that is working with Andre to put this thing together. Andre has the molds for those bodies. So you never know. In the future, we could be going to those badass cool bodies. I know they're different looking, but I love them. I think they look badass. You can get a lot of graphics on them. I'd love to see them figure out a way to have those bodies on a regular CIK kart. Obviously, you have to bolt some posts on, that kind of mounting posts, but I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think back before we had the rear bumper that we do now, I think it would have been a good idea, because one, it covers up the tires in a way, so it kind of eliminates the, up and over type situations. I'm sure you could still do it if you really hit somebody hard enough. But I think, with the full bumpers and everything like that, I think we're pretty good. So we'll see if they happen to do that in the future.
It could happen. It's there. The opportunity's there. But again, 24 Hours of Orlando, March 29 to 31. We're going to get TJ on for a podcast in December to talk more about this event. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I hope it takes root, because this would be a great event to add to these awesome one-off events that we're really rocking with now here in the U.S. You got the Battle of the Brickyard. You've got Quincy, the Quincy Grand Prix back. You got the Elkhart Grand Prix. You got Rock Island. Streets of Lancaster. There's just a lot of really cool one-off events for people that want to barnstorm. I think that's awesome.
Here's a challenge.
Go.
Here's a challenge.
Uh-oh.
If somebody can win the 24 hours over Orlando plus the Newcastle 125 in the same year.
We hadn't brought that up yet. Yeah. Put a little dough up for that, you think?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Maybe a t-shirt.
Wow. Dude, you think big, David. Don't let people say you never think big.
Yeah, you got to dress the part sometimes.
That's true. Okay. That's going to be a pretty solid race, I think. So, David, let's kind of wrap things up a little bit here on This Week in Karting. This week on e-karting news as well. We obviously had a bunch of great shows that we had on the EKN radio network. Remember, the way we're working our podcasts is we will record podcasts like This Week in Karting, like the Industry Insider, like my new Book It show. The first opportunity to listen to these shows will be on the EKN radio network. We're gonna try to position them, schedule them back to back. So if you maybe miss the start, you're going to catch the start on the other side. Try to play them in the morning, trying to play them in the afternoon so people can listen to them on their commute. That'll happen for a couple of days a week, whatever it may be, and then we'll release them as podcasts. So that will come on down the line. So I believe, David, we already got the Alan Rudolph, I think, went out as a podcast. I think you got the Mike Rawlson Industry Insider out on a podcast as well. Is that correct?
Yep. And then we'll be getting the EKN debrief. Should be if you load up your Apple Podcasts or whatever, or your Podbean or however you load your podcast, should be able to get the EKN debrief for the WK Manufacturers Cup Grand Nationals.
Awesome. I had a fantastic conversation with a guy I've known for a long time, Matt Jaskell. A brand new show. I was talking to David about it, and I wanted to have a show that wasn't just about the industry or about whatever sport. It was going to be kind of a conversational show where we could grab personalities, some of the cool people that are in the sport. We could talk a little bit about some of the politics of karting, but I want it more to talk about life and about the sport, your experience in the sport, why you do. Bring out some origin stories on how people got into the sport. It's called Book It. In conversation with myself, Rob Howden, and again, had Matt Jaskell on. It's playing right now on the EKN radio network. We'll keep that going through the weekend, I would expect. Talking about Matt's run through his karting career, getting into cars, the Red Bull driver search where he almost had a chance to kind of get into the pipeline for Formula One, what he's been doing over the last number of years, him being on Castaways, the ABC reality TV show. I listened to it again yesterday. Actually, I listened to it for the first time yesterday after recording it, and it was pretty moving. Matt got pretty emotional, talked a lot about his life and his trials and tribulations, and I had somebody actually text me saying, wow, you know what? Matt set the bar pretty high on that podcast. But David, I think it's exciting. I was really happy to get a chance to talk to Matt, and it couldn't have gone any better than I'd hoped for.
Yeah, he did set the bar. You guys had a great conversation, and his story really shows that making your way into the motorsports world is not an easy task. That's for sure.
Next week, again, I talked about the fact that we're going to have next week on the EKN radio network being Operation Grassroots focused. So we'll be playing, we'll talk to our Operation Grassroots interview that we did with Greg Jasperson about the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals, which David and I will be racing in next year. I love it. I'm going to sit down and talk to Keith Freber on Friday. We'll have that playing all next week. I'm going to see if I can't get a hold of Chris Rossi from the KPX Championship out in California. Just want to make sure that we're kicking out some Operation Grassroots content for you next weekend. I know many of you be focused on the SuperNationals, but those of you who are club racers and want to hear more about 206 racing, we'll have a lot of that on the EKN radio next week. But David, first and foremost, when it comes to essentially, I hit the ground Sunday night in Vegas. You get there Tuesday. Wednesday to Super Sunday, we are rocking EKN Live SuperNationals coverage. Man, start at the end of the day. We just go. I can't wait. Based on the previews that you're kicking out, the predictions that we're making, SuperNats on EKN Live, brought to you by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy and other partners that we'll talk about later. Man, I'm excited. Super excited to get to Vegas.
Well, so far in the previews, we have Micro, we have Mini, K100 Junior, Master Shifter, X30 Master, and today, Thursday, is X30 Junior. Those are already published, and then we have K100 Senior coming, we have X30 Senior coming, Pro Shifter, and of course KZ on Monday.
The really hard ones to pick, right? Like, How do you pick X30 Senior? That's going to be crazy to figure out who's going to be up front.
I'm going to print out the list and have my kids pick 5 names.
You should do that. You should. Trust me, folks, when I'm sure I can speak for David, when you're sitting down and looking at predictions, first and foremost, you know you're going to be wrong. Because you can pick guys, but you just don't know who's going to hit their stride. David, you've been, I don't know, what is this, your 13th or 14th SuperNational, something like that?
14th.
14th. How many times do we go there and there's a guy that you just wouldn't have picked who all of a sudden just hits the marks, gets comfortable, and he's in top 10, top 5, or a guy that you knew, man, this guy is going to be there, and they're in one of the big fields, they're qualifying 35th. It's just so situational. It relies on momentum and confidence. You have a wreck early in practice, it gets in your head. It's such a tough race for us to try to predict who's going to be up front, I think. Did you agree?
I totally agree. It's every class is tough to predict. X30 being the hardest probably out of all of them.
I think so.
But again, like you said, and to coin the phrase that Chris Wheeler came up with, Situation Saturday. It's huge.
Yeah.
And especially in X30 in these classes that have more than the 44 allowed. It's very key to make sure you get that final heat race in, and to be able to qualify right through to the main event without having to go to the LCQ.
Well, and that's it. Situation Saturday. Again, Chris Wheeler from Bell Racing USA is the one that kind of came up with that when Chris was up, and he occasionally joins me in the broadcast center, the Cooper Tire Broadcast Center, to call Situation Saturday. But that's the third heat race and the last chance qualifiers. And I think that says it, right, Dave? You have to have been perfect. You've had to qualify well. You qualify 60th, you're in trouble. In the first 2 heat races, it's all about being smart. But again, everything changes. The storyline really is set in that third heat race. What have you done? Have you been able to maintain your pace, your performances, or do you have trouble? Again, that's what it all comes down to. Now, folks, Trackside Live beginning on Monday. I'll be there Monday morning. David's going to keep working on the previews back home. He flies in on Tuesday. I'll have paddock notes on the track build. I'll give you some shots of the track itself. Thursday, of course, we start our live coverage with qualifying, the morning and afternoon qualifying sessions. We continue from there all the way through to Super Sunday. And, of course, all of that coming courtesy of the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, our title sponsor this year, at ekartingnews.com/live. David, we'll make sure we push out the event page as well that you have set up on eKarting News. That's really, if people are following online, they can watch on the EKN Live, of course, but the event page is where you can go. If you bookmark the event page, you can go there. All of our previews, all of our stories, all the links you need on the EKN event page for the SuperNats, right?
All right there, ready to go.
Well, my friend, I'm going to let you get back to work. We actually were able to cap this one into a 1-hour show. David's got a ton to do. I've got a lot to do still. Again, Thursday, November the 8th, episode number 2 of This Week in Karting. We hope we brought you up to speed on what's been going on here in the EKN news desk over the last 10 days. You're not going to see one next week because obviously SuperNats, no. Week after, David and I are going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and take probably about 5 days off. We'll give you one after that as we get into December. Dave, thanks for joining, buddy. I appreciate it. Get back to work, my friend. SuperNats, ladies and gentlemen, up next week here on EKN. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.